What's up, guys? Anthony here. So I've been doing this a long time, and I have clients literally from all over the world. I have clients from Brazil, from Portugal, from Spain, from France. I got one from Singapore, from Japan, down in Mexico. International clients galore coming to Atlanta, learning about Georgia, and they are often shocked by what they learn here. There's all kinds of stereotypes about the South, and especially here in the Southeast in Atlanta, and they are shattered when my clients get here. So that's what we're talking about in this video. I'm covering 10 things I bet you did not know about Atlanta. Super cool facts, stereotypes shattered, things the locals won't tell you, but Anthony will. Let's begin. What's up, guys? My name is Anthony Laborde, and before we jump into the content, I just want to say one thing. As much as I love making these videos, I love meeting you guys, your friends, your family that are moving to Atlanta, wanting to learn more about our great city. I love hearing from them. So if you have anybody that you know that's moving here, want to learn about it, maybe it's you, please pass along my information. I'd love to hear from them, learn about their housing needs, and get them moved here and on their way. But as I mentioned, we are talking about things that locals won't tell you, stereotypes of Southerners, things that you typically won't hear from other channels. That's what we're covering in this video. Let's begin. So right out of the gates, and the first topic I'm going to tackle is arguably the most difficult, and my real estate coach has told me not to do it. My broker told me not to do it. My mother is rolling in her grave right now. That's okay, because these are topics we got to talk about, and the first one is religion. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when you think about the South, oh, there's a bunch of Bible thumpers, the holy rollers, the snake handlers. They're all a bunch of Protestants down there. They're in the Bible Belt. There's a little bit of truth to that in terms of the Bible Belt. It's our location. But in terms of our religious diversity, you could not be further from the truth. Yes, Martin Luther King was born and raised here in Atlanta. Ebenezer Baptist Church, the church that he was a pastor of, is here in downtown, still operational. So yeah, there's a strong presence of Protestant here, but we've grown so much in the past 20, 30, 40 years in terms of diversity and becoming an international city. We have every religion you can imagine. We have over 1,000 places of worship across all religions. Here in the Atlanta metro area, you do not get that type of diversity just being stuck in the Bible Belt. And I'll give you an example. Buddhism, Hindu, Islam, Catholicism, Protestants, you name it. The diversity of religion here in Atlanta should shatter every stereotype that you have about living in the South, whatever your belief. My Jewish community is over 200,000 strong. We have temples in Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, Toco Hills, all Midtown, downtown, all over the Atlanta metro area. Hinduism, one of my absolute favorite religions. My Hindu friends, your community is 150,000 strong and growing. We have the largest Hindu temple outside of India, located here in Lilburn, Georgia. That's a suburb of Atlanta. My Indian family and friends, I have a number of clients over the years that I've worked with, and I understand the importance of the direction of your home. Where does your primary bedroom face? Where does your front door face? North, northeast versus south, southwest. We don't want that. And understanding the importance of the energy flow and how that affects your family's prosperity, your growth in your family. These are very, very important to certain communities. And I want you to understand that I keep this in mind. This is a priority of mine when working with my Hindu friends and family. So this is something that I know is important to you. It's important to me. Going to my Muslim friends, Islam. I love my Muslim community. You are 100,000 strong and growing. The 5th largest Muslim community in the U.S. is right here in the Atlanta metro area. The largest one is Al Farouk Masjid, located in downtown, midtown area. Absolutely stunningly beautiful mosque there. Whatever your belief, agnostic, atheist, Protestant, Catholic, Islam, Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, you name it, you have a community here. We will welcome you with open arms. We love all religions and would love to have you here. Let's keep going. So the second item on the list, and arguably the second most controversial item, is about politics. And again, my coach is telling me, you can't talk about religion and politics. I'm talking about both of them because it's super important. There's a stereotype about us Southerners living in the South and what we're labeled as in our political beliefs. And the one thing I want to point out is that we've been a state since the early 1800s. The first time we voted Republican in the state of Georgia was 1964. That's over 100 years of our existence. And since then, we voted it 4 times for the state. Mr. Jimmy Carter has done an amazing, amazing job. He just entered hospice, and I know that his time is limited, but we love him here. He's done a great job for us. Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, we have voted in there. And again, fast forward, we did not have our first Republican Senate seat until 1980. Our first Republican vote was 1964. So this stereotype of a bunch of conservatives down there in the South, Republican, it's just not true at all. Here's another fact for you. Sonny Perdue, who was one of our governors here in Georgia a number of years ago, he was the first Republican governor since 1872. So again, that stereotype of conservatives and Republicans and Democrats, it's just false. Where I'm going with all this is that we are now a swing state. So your political views, your religious views, regardless of what they are, we're such a diverse state. And we have so many different beliefs mixed in here with our history. There's a place for everybody here. Please, guys, hit me up. Wherever you want to live, wherever your belief, whatever your religious, whatever your background, it does not matter. Atlanta has a place for you. Destroy these stereotypes that you have about the South. Atlanta is an international city. Happen to be located in the South. I'm a Southern boy. My heart is there, and I love it here, but it's just one of the many things that makes Atlanta so wonderful. So number 3 on the list, and this often surprises a lot of people, is that Atlanta has the highest elevation of all the major metro cities east of the Mississippi River. Now, some of you out on the West Coast in the Midwest, like, I don't even know what that means. Where is the Mississippi River? I got you. Look at your map. The Mississippi River divides the country almost into a third. So the entire third eastern seaboard is to the east of the Mississippi River. That is massive when you think about the population of the country and where that population resides. We're talking about Florida, Alabama, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, we're talking about Chicago, Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, New York, Boston, Pennsylvania, Philly, like all of that eastern. We have the highest elevation. That has a lot to do with, almost everything to do with, we are at the base of the Appalachian Mountains. Atlanta is the highest elevation. We are not a flat landscape by any means. When you drive around Atlanta, it's rolling, beautiful hills. We're at the base of the mountains. You have all of these gorgeous areas in North Georgia, all these Blue Ridge Mountains. We're also at the base of the Appalachian Trail. If you say North Georgia, it goes all the way up to Maine. Many people do this. They call it the AT. So the hiking here, the fishing here, the camping here, the lakes, the rivers, you name it, is absolutely amazing. People are shocked by how green it is here. When you come to Georgia, specifically Atlanta, you are right in the middle of nature. You're right in the middle of the hills. You're right in the mountains. The state of Georgia has 10 million people in it. The Atlanta metro area has 6.5 million people. So 4 million people in the entire state. And we have a pretty big state. Our topography here shocks a lot of people. We're right in the middle of a forest. It's absolutely beautiful here. Any outdoor activity that you can imagine is taking place here in the Atlanta metro area. Now, the 4th item on the list, and this has a lot to do with the previous, the topography of Georgia, and it's the natural disasters in Georgia. This shocks people when I start talking about this, because you think about where we're situated, there's really no reason for us, allegedly, to have all these natural disasters. When I talk to clients about this, their first response is, oh, it must be the hurricanes. You guys are near the coast on the eastern seaboard. You're near Florida. They always have to deal with hurricanes, so you guys have to deal with hurricanes. But that's not the case. One of the things that we have to deal with is earthquakes. And I know people are like, what? That's only in California. Granted, California has substantially more earthquakes than we do, but we have 3 fault lines that run through Georgia. The Brevard Fault, the New Madrid Fault, and the Soak River Fault. Now, the Brevard Fault, that runs directly beneath Atlanta, down to Hall County. That's the one where we feel the most tremors on. Now, granted, it is nothing like California. Since the 1900s, we've had 240 earthquakes, and these are most between 2 and 3 on the Richter scale at the most. Doesn't rarely get any higher than that, so it's a lot of tremors and everything, but it does freak people out. The locals don't like it. I don't like it. I can't stand for the earth to start moving. The other thing that we have to deal with, are tornadoes. Now, this one is something that freaks a lot of locals out. We've had issues with this, again, going back to topography. When you think about the Appalachian mountain chain and then how the weather comes through here, and then in the spring and the summer months, when you have that cool weather and the warm weather and them clashing, and then all that topography, it causes just crazy, crazy weather. We have some of the wildest thunderstorms in here. I have friends of mine that have moved from the West Coast and up north, and they cannot believe the torrential downpours that we get here in the Georgia area and Atlanta area. The lightning comes along with it, all the rain, the flooding. It's a massive problem during the spring and the summer. These rainstorms can get crazy, and they also produce tornadoes. This is another thing that the locals won't tell you about. Georgia's not part of Tornado Alley, the formal Tornado Alley, but there have been discussions on the government level and the federal level of adding us to that label of Tornado Alley because of our topography, because of the tornadoes that we get through here. We average about 30 tornadoes per year. In 2017, we had 102 tornadoes, and these are some big ones. We've had some F4s, some F3s, some massive ones that have caused big damage. In 2008, we had 40 tornadoes in a 24-hour period. The other thing is the wildfires. Again, earlier in the video, I talked about how rural Georgia is. 6.5 million people in Atlanta, 10 million in the state. So you can think about all the forest that we have here in the state of Georgia. And so when you have a drought, when it gets dry, and you have these thunderstorms come through here, then you have the lightning come through and it starts these fires. Back in 2007, Okefenokee Swamp down in the south, we had one of the largest wildfires ever in the entire United States. Over 400,000 acres were burned down there together, and it had this massive wildfire down there in South Georgia. So yeah, here in Georgia, we got to deal with some natural disasters. So number 5 on the list has to do with Atlanta being the only U.S. city ever to be destroyed during a war. It happened during 1864, during the Civil War. If you know anything about me or watched any of my other videos, I'm a big Civil War buff, love all things history, and Atlanta played a huge role in this. And it was back in the 1860s, it was towards the end of the war, when General Sherman was making his march to the sea, headed down to Savannah. Atlanta was one of the last strongholds in the way. General Johnston and his troops were there. There was battles all over this area, especially here on the north side. I live near Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield. That is a national park set aside for the Battle of Kennesaw and all that went on there, all the relics, everything. Super interesting and fascinating. But once Sherman got to Atlanta, went around Kennesaw Mountain, flanked all, got to Atlanta, burned the city down. There was over 3,000 buildings completely burned to the ground, 50% of the city gone. There was only 400 buildings left, and so it was completely destroyed. The only city to ever happen during a war, but that's also why the official symbol of Atlanta is the phoenix, because we rose from the ashes after the war, destroyed, rebuilt, came back stronger than ever, and that is why Atlanta is the only city to ever be destroyed, and the fact that we are the phoenix. Now, number 6 on the list, and that is that Atlanta metro area and the state of Georgia is a massive sports town, sports state, you name it. If you love sports, you are absolutely going to love living in the Southeast, living here in Georgia, especially here in Atlanta. It is unbelievably competitive. We have 23 professional sports teams here in Atlanta. Every sport you can imagine is represented here. We even have a professional Call of Duty esports team here in Atlanta. Baseball with the Atlanta Braves, football with the Falcons, basketball with the Hawks, soccer with the United, all the women's teams, all of the lacrosse teams, the rugby teams, the professional fishing. We have fishing tournaments, we have skiing, we have water skiing, we have wakeboarding. You cannot even think of a sport that's not represented here in the Atlanta area. And guess what? Nation's largest golf tournament, the Masters, here in Georgia, down in Augusta. Guys, it's super competitive here. In addition to being in Georgia, think about the Southeast Conference. We got Alabama next to us, Florida beneath us, the Carolinas above us, Tennessee, all of those football teams, all of those basketball teams, all of those baseball teams, all competing in this area. And then here in Atlanta, if you watch those sports, you know that a lot of the conference championships, the Super Bowl, the World Series, all of that takes place here in Atlanta. Guys, you better like some sports if you're going to be living here in Atlanta. Now we're going to stay on the topic of sports, and that brings us to number 7. And if you are a soccer fan, you are going to love number 7, because in 2026, 3 years away, Atlanta, Georgia has been nominated as a host city for the World Cup. Yes, that's the FIFA Soccer World Cup here in Atlanta. Only 11 cities in the U.S. have been voted to be a host city. Atlanta is one of them. It's super exciting. The Atlanta United, as I mentioned, we've already won 2 championships here. We are a massive, massive soccer town. If you're a soccer fan and you're looking to move to Atlanta, you have 3 years. 3 years to get here before the World Cup is here. Some of my nephews are big soccer fans. We've already got tickets and arrangements for 3 years out when the World Cup gets here. But it is going to be awesome. There's already an excitement in the air. There's already energy in the air. Our downtown area by Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that's where the Atlanta United play right now, is being completely revitalized. Restaurants, retail, all kinds of stuff going on there. Getting ready to host the World Cup in 2026. It's going to be awesome, awesome, awesome. So number 8 on the list is actually one of my favorites and one of the main reasons why I live here in Atlanta and have always stayed here. And it is that we are home to the world's busiest, most efficient airport on the planet. Yes, that's more than Dubai, London, Chicago, New York, LAX. Across the globe, we have the largest, the busiest, most efficient airport on the planet. It houses 4,700 acres, 5 parallel runways. This is the home to Delta World headquarters. This is their hub here. Part of the reason why we have so much efficiency here. You understand how big Delta is, and we're housed here. 100 million people per year. Let that sink in. 100 million people per year get moved through our airport. That's over 300,000 people per day. And if you've ever been through the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, you know how smooth it is, how efficient it is. You would never have any idea that 300,000 people are moving through there that day with our security lines, how fast we move through there, restaurants in there, all the terminals. We have 8 different concourses in there. Again, 5 different runways. 80% of the U.S. can be reached from the Atlanta airport in 2 hours or less. So where this is important to you, if you're looking for a place to live, but you have family all over the world, all over the U.S., here in the Southeast, Atlanta is the absolute easiest to get in and out of. You know, I have a lot of friends of mine that live up in Tennessee. Tennessee's only 2 hours north of us. Nashville, Chattanooga, amazing state, great place to live. But every time they got to fly out, they got to drive down to Atlanta, or they got to take a flight down here, then they got to fly out of Atlanta. It's just a headache for them to get in and out. Same with Alabama, same with the Carolinas. They all have to come to Atlanta. It's always a connecting flight someplace else. But I live here. So any place I want to go, hop on a flight. I'm there in 2-3 hours, down to the Caribbean in 2 hours. I go down to Florida, go down to see my family in Texas. I can go out to the West Coast. I used to travel internationally, and it is super easy in and out of the airport. The parking is amazing. It's just an incredible place. If you travel, and I'm spoiled to death. When I travel the U.S. now, and I go to these other cities and other airports, I call my wife, and I'm like, I cannot believe people live in these cities and have to deal with that TSA at that airport. It's bizarre to me. We're just spoiled rotten. So if you like to travel, if you have family across the U.S., Atlanta is an amazing place to be because we have the very best, the biggest, the busiest, the most efficient airport in the country. So number 9 on the list, this is a little bit of a silly one. And I know this video is about things that locals won't tell you. This is actually something that locals will tell you, and they'll tell you in a heartbeat, is that we are not Hotlanta. Please do not come here and call us Hotlanta. If you're from out of state, the quickest way to look like a tourist and like you're not from here is to say Hotlanta. We don't know where it came from. Maybe it was from a rap song or a poem, or who knows where it came from, but it stuck years and years ago, but nobody in Atlanta likes it. It's only people on the outside that call us that. So when you come here and you say it, you may get a funny look. It's a funny thing. A couple of years ago, there was a local radio station, big local radio host that was running a contest on getting rid of the term Hotlanta and replacing it with something else. That's how annoying it is to us Atlantans. So you're not being cool when you come here and you call us Hotlanta. You actually look like a fool. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it did. Chicka, chicka, chicka. And finally, number 10 on my list, and this is one of my favorites. It's actually the favorite of mine on this list, and I think it's actually the most important because it's the biggest misconception about us Southerners, about Georgians, about Atlantans, and it's the diversity in Atlanta. We are one of the most diverse cities in the entire country, but we got this rap of being here in the Southeast, and so we're just a bunch of Southerners. Good luck finding somebody from the South or from Atlanta that lives here. We're a transplant city. All those universities that I just mentioned, we have 26 colleges and universities, 22 technical universities. We have 30 of the world's Fortune 500 companies headquartered here in the Atlanta metro area. So you can imagine, these are multinational companies from all over the world. They are bringing in employees and executives and workers all here into the metro area. None of them are from Atlanta. They're all from all over the globe. And it's what gives us all this diversity of religion, of the sports, of the different personalities, of the things to do, you name it. The diversity here is unbelievable. And when you look at the city as a whole and look at the different neighborhoods, the different religions, the different everything, it's so diverse here. It's just an amazing place. You get all these different cuisines of food, all the different types of music, all the different universities, all the different sports, all the different professions. It's incredible. When you spend any amount of time here in the Atlanta metro area, you quickly realize, like, this is not the South. Yes, we still have Southern charm, and we still have a lot of the features of being in the South, but the people here, they're from all over the world. So you have all of these dialects, all these languages, all these personalities, all these religions, all these everything. Where I'm going with this is that Atlanta is not the stereotypical Southern city, although we have that Southern charm. There is something here for everybody. Regardless of your background, regardless of your profession, regardless of your political belief, regardless of you're gay or lesbian or straight or religious or rich or poor or educated or not, it does not matter. Atlanta has a place for you, and it is why I feel like it is absolutely one of the greatest places on the planet to live. How much it has to offer, the location, the travel arrangements, the airport, the companies here, the sports. You see where I'm going? I could just ramble all day long about Atlanta Metro, but guys, hopefully you enjoyed this list. Hopefully you learned something about the state, and it is an amazing place. It's an amazing place for everybody, no matter your nationality, no matter what. You're absolutely going to love living here. Guys, so that is a wrap on this video. Hopefully you learned something about the great city of Atlanta, the great state of Georgia, living here in the Southeast, and it destroyed all these ridiculous preconceived notions and stereotypes you have about Southerners. It is an amazing city, an amazing state, an amazing part of the country to live in, easy to travel in and out of, great sports town, great food, amazing music, easy to get to the mountains, down to the beach, down to Florida, down to the Caribbean. Just a great place. That's a wrap. My name is Anthony Laborde. I'm a real estate agent here in Atlanta. As you can tell, I love this city. I love living here. I love getting people moved here, learning about them, learning about their backgrounds, and getting them moved here to this great state. So if you have any questions about moving here, living here, working here, please hit me up. I'd love to hear from you. Until then, you guys have a great day. Talk to you next time.